Hello everyone. Thought I'd sit down and explain to you guys how I make a B-36 without having any engineering drawings or blueprints. Well, it all starts off with a really great guy who's nice enough to measure the B-36 for me. Very basic measurements. Sometimes it's really hard to determine where this panel ends right here, if it's 18 3/4, 18 7/8, or 19. And you know, the curve, the lighting throws things off. It all comes down to a lot of trial and error sometimes. Sometimes I have to actually build the piece and have them sitting side by side to see, oh, I really messed that up, or I did a good job. But in terms of, you know, dimensions, these are what I'm working off of. Just rough, you know, of course the perspectives and the angles and the, you know, the distances throw things off. This is measuring the height of the throttle quadrants, which is about, you know, 2.5 inches. I'm sorry, 2.25 inches. This guy has been nice enough to measure in this manner essentially the entire flight deck. But once I get these to give me a rough idea of the size of things, then I gotta translate it to building things. Really handy thing is the illustrated parts breakdown. Once again, just drawings, but it confirms some of the things that I can't otherwise see. You know, there's only so much I can see in the bombers themselves. That's the back end of the flight engineer panel. The main panel goes here, secondary panel goes there. Some of these drawings are pretty accurate. Sometimes they're a little inaccurate, but all in all, pretty helpful. Let's get to where the panel I built today. This shows the difference between the RB-36H and the RB-36 bomber, I should say. Here's what I built today. It all comes down to, my guy took the measurement. I know this is like 17 inches, 21 inches tall. So I have these actual B-36 components that I can space out. I call them scaling. For example, this distance between these two panels I knew was 1/2 inch because I was able to take this from this point here to the 100, and it was 1/2 inch. So I knew that this was 1/2 inch from looking at pictures. And then areas like this, as my collection grows and I accumulate actual B-36 artifacts, I know the exact distances between these screws and the circuit breaker head and so on. So I was able to transfer that directly onto there. Made a little bit of an error. These two circuit breaker holes are not supposed to be on the bomber. These are for the reconnaissance bomber. I just noticed that a little earlier today. So let's go over here. These are the -1 flight manuals, which I use for more of a historical reference of what was actually on the B-36. This is for the standard H model. This is the earliest one I have, and this would be the one that I'm trying to duplicate the most. So we'll look at a few things. go down here. Like the overhead jet control. If we go a couple of years down the road to the Featherweight 3, we can see that it's changed, I think, if this is the right one. Yes, we can see that it's changed with the addition of these controls here. So this is the panel that I made today. I'm pointing out where I had these 2 additional breakers I shouldn't have had. Let's see if it changed during the featherweighting. Does not appear to have changed. So what I'm doing here is accurate. But unfortunately, this morning when I was designing this thing, I had the RB manual up, and you can see here that unfortunately for me, the RB has those additional circuit breakers. Other than that, they're identical. The RB-36 and the B-36 are essentially identical in the flight deck, with the exception of every panel has like an extra gauge or an extra circuit breaker or whatnot. But in terms of this panel, like I have the push to test lamp, so I know where that's supposed to be and how big it's supposed to be. But if you look at all this stuff, like I've got all these things. I know these are 2-inch gauges, and I've got a really good idea of, you know, how these are flanged. If I were to go one step further and go to looking at actual pictures from the RB-36H, we can compare. We can see that these 2-inch gauges are actually in these recessed areas. So I estimated these to be half of an inch. I don't know how deep they are, but you can see that the real artifact, or the genuine artifact, it's slightly different than the dash ones. They don't go up to the lines as far in that area. So I think I estimated these to be 3.5 inches. I'm pretty sure I've got 3.5 inches between that area right there and that area. So they should fit. These are engine analyzers, and the other one I don't know what it's called. Interestingly, every B-36 station in the entire airplane has a communications panel for the intercom, a D2. This is actually a D1 because it doesn't have the lighting. And they have a cigarette ashtray. So I got to duplicate that thing like 5 times for the flight deck. But it's a lot of painstaking, aggravating work getting everything where it's supposed to be, where it'll fit. I just realized on this panel, because I looked at something wrong, that these 2-inch gauges are actually about 1/2 inch too low. So once I get everything in there and see how it works, if I'm not happy, if it's too far off, you know, 1/2 inch doesn't sound like much, but you know, if you mess up 1/2 inch 3 times, you know, then you're off what? 1.5 inches. And it adds up. But we'll see. Well, that's how I do it on every single piece. Hopefully I'll get back to working on the bigger parts. I get kind of, I don't want to say sidetracked, because this is a very essential and necessary part of the build, but you know, these panels and these smaller things, they take a lot of time. So I hope to get back to the bigger stuff soon, but I got to get this in there to be able to judge where my canopy lines are and if this stuff is going to fit. The next project is going to be the huge, oh, there's something I forgot. Let me pull this up here. Without everybody seeing all my links and my history and stuff. It's a very powerful tool, if not the most powerful. Where is it? There it is. Here we are. I showed the app a couple videos ago by Cockpit 360. But you can get on this, get on their Facebook page, and you can see this. This is, you know, I mentioned that the Air Force Museum had this on their site, and you could zoom it into where you could see the milling marks on the whatever. It was incredibly detailed, but it's been down for about over a year now. But yeah, this thing's a lifesaver. This has really helped me out so much. I practically live virtually inside this this stuff. But that panel right there, I dread making that thing. That is going to be crazy. And this table is going to be crazy too, because it goes like how many inches, then up 3/4 of an inch, then how many inches, and then up an inch. It's maddening. The flight engineer crap is absolutely maddening. And I told you, I've estimated, I've counted all these gauges, that there's around $5,000 worth of like stuff. And not to mention the weight of how much it's gonna weigh. My channel is gonna be dedicated to building the flight engineer station, and God knows how many years it's gonna take. But anyways, I'll see y'all next time.